Hello everyone, today in this video I am going to deal with the third chapter of Beehive of class 9th. The chapter is The Little Girl, written by Catherine Mansfield. Now before I move to the text, let me introduce you to the author of this chapter, Kathleen Mansfield Murray. Kathleen Mansfield Murray was a prominent New Zealand modernist short story writer and poet who was born and brought up in a colonial New Zealand and wrote under the pen name Catherine Mansfield. At the age of 19, she left New Zealand and settled in England, where she became a friend of writers such as D.H. Lawrence and Virginia Woolf. Mansfield was diagnosed with extrapulmonary tuberculosis in 1917. The disease claimed her life at the age of 34. This is all about the author of this chapter, of this story, The Little Girl. Now, giving you the outline of this story. This story is taken from Something Childish and Other Stories collection. So it has been taken from a collection of a story named Something Childish and Other Stories collection. The author pictures a delicate father-daughter relationship. The little girl Kezia is a sensitive girl, afraid of her father, whom she regards as a giant. Her father was a stern and strict, dominating the house. The second thing which is here highlighted in this story is that the emotion must be expressed. Kezia's father loves her, but he never expresses himself, which created a void or gap between them. She does not share a close bond with her father. Instead, she lives in a fear and even started stuttering in front of him. The third theme which is there in this story, that is the dominance of male over female in our society. And similarly here in this chapter, here it can be seen in this chapter, we will come to know that there is only one male character, that is Kezia's father, and all other members of the family are female, and all members are revolving around the one male who is Kezia's father. And at the end, we will come to know that there will be a transition of emotion. What does it mean by transition of emotion? It means the emotion of daughter, that is Kezia, toward her father will change, and that too, the emotion of Kezia's father toward his daughter will change. So let's see how the emotions changes, how that hostility, these two characters, mainly Kezia and her father, was hostile toward each other, but by the end of the story, this hostility turns into love for each other. They started understanding each other. So let's see how all this happens. To the little girl, he was a figure to be feared and avoided. Every morning before going to work, he came to her room and gave her a casual kiss, to which she responded with "Goodbye, father," and oh, there was a glad sense of relief when she heard the noise of the carriage growing fainter and fainter down the long road. So in the first paragraph, we are introduced to the little girl and her father. The scene opens in the morning. The father, before leaving for his office, gives a casual kiss to his daughter, and in a response, she just say "Goodbye, father." And this scene, that casual kiss and her saying "Goodbye, father," brings a sense of relief to her. Why it brings a relief to her? Because she feels uncomfortable in presence of her father. She is afraid of her father, and therefore she doesn't enjoy the company of her father, and she used to eagerly wait for this moment, the time when her father will go out of the house, and she becomes quite happy. She used to hear the carriage, the sound of the carriage growing fainter and fainter, so it brings a relief to her. The sound getting fainter, it means he has gone far away. Now there is no chance of him to return, so definitely he is going to return in the evening after he has finished his work. So it shows how the father and the daughter share relationship with each other. Generally, when father is going out of the house, a little girl, a little child becomes worried. They start crying, they start weeping. But here it can be seen that the little girl is seen waiting for her father to go out of the home. So this shows that the relation between the father and the daughter is not so good. In the evening, when he came home, she stood near the staircase, heard his loud voice in the hall. Bring my tea into the drawing room. Hasn't the paper come yet? Mother, go and see if my paper's out there and bring me my slippers. So now the first paragraph was the opening paragraph, and it gives us the scene of morning when he was leaving for his office. Now second paragraph gives us a scene when he returns back from his office, that is in evening. So it is being given that when he returns back to home from his work, Kezia, this little girl, she used to stand near the staircase and without any movement, and her father used to shout in a loud voice in the hall, giving command and listing different do and don'ts, giving different order to different members of the family, asking for papers, asking for tea, and he was shouting at everyone. He was speaking to everyone in a loud voice, in a loud manner. So again, when he has returned from office, instead of generally what happened when father or mother return back home from office, if there is a small child, a little child in home, definitely then parents used to first speak to the little child. But here again we can see that there is no conversation between the father and that little child. Instead of speaking to her, he is sitting, he is in the hall, and he is giving command and ordering for different items which he requires at that moment. He is asking for chapel, he is asking for slippers, he is asking for newspaper, he is asking for tea in the drawing room only. Kezia, mother would call her. So we are introduced to the name of this little girl, that is Kezia. Kezia, mother would call her, if you are a good girl, you can come down and take off father's boots. Slowly the girl would slip down the stairs, more slowly, still across the hall, and push open the drawing room door. By that time, he had his spectacles on and looked at her over them in a way that was terrifying to the little girl. Well, Kezia, hurry up and pull off these boots and take them outside. Have you been a good girl today? I don't know, father. You don't know? If you stuttered like that, mother will have to take you to the doctor. So again you can see over here, even the child is not interested to see her father. When he has returned home, and if the child shares a good relationship with parent, then definitely child used to run to parents. But in the last paragraph we have seen that she was standing somewhere hiding near the staircase, and when her mother asked her to go down a stair, and she has again ordered her to take off her father's boot. Again it shows that this paragraph shows the dominancy of male over female. That is, the patriarchal society gives us a clear image of patriarchal society. A man who is the man of the house can even not take off his boot himself. So a little child is asked to take off his boot. So now her movement, here you can see in the second line, slowly the girl would slip down the stairs. She is not going hurriedly. If the child had good relation, they used to run to their parents, but she is going slowly. It means as if she has committed, her movement shows that as if she has committed any mistake, she has done any blunder, and she is being called for punishment. So for her, going to her father seems to be like a punishment to her. Her gesture and posture suggest this only. So she moved slowly, slipping down the stairs, slowly across the hall, and pushed open the drawing room. So now her father was sitting there in that drawing room with her spectacles. So he used to look over the spectacles to her in a terrifying manner. He used to be terrified. He was quite afraid of her father, and then he used to ask her, "Well, Kezia, hurry up." He used to ask her to pull off his shoes, his boot, and then he used to ask that whether you have been a good girl today, it means whether you have behaved properly today or not. Then you can see over here the child, instead of replying fluently, the child is stammering over here. I don't know, father. So again, you can see that how much she is afraid of her father. She is so much afraid that even she has started stuttering, she has started stammering, stumbling while speaking to him. And then again he says, instead of sharing a good talk, or instead of talking to her in a affectionate manner, what he is saying that if you will stammer like this, then your mother will take you to the doctor. She was already terrified, she was already afraid, and now again the doctor is something which is unpleasant and terrifying for a child, and again he has terrified her more. Let's see then what happened. She never stuttered with other people, had quite given it up, but only with father, because then she was trying so hard to say words properly. So what it is being said, that in this paragraph we are informed that she never stammered. She never stammered while talking to anyone else, but she used to stammer only while speaking to her father. Why she was stammering? Because she was afraid, and she was, whatever she was speaking to him, she was speaking in a very conscious manner, because it may be that she will be scolded again by her father, and that's why in doing so again she starts stammering. What's the matter? What are you looking so brisk about? Mother, I wish you taught this child not to appear on the brink of society. Here, Kezia, carry my teacup back to the table carefully. He was so big. So again, here you can see in the last paragraph, she was looking at her, and wrist, it means, here wrist, it means unhappy, sorry. It means unhappy. So again he asked her that don't look at me like this. You seems to be unhappy, and it appears that you are on the brink of suicide. It means you are about to commit suicide. So he was again scolding her for her facial expression, but that facial expression was natural because she was afraid of him. So instead of talking to her in an affectionate manner, in a pampering manner, he is continuously pointing out some or other mistake. A child need pampered. But here this father, instead of speaking to her in a soft tone, continuously he is pointing one or other mistake of her, and therefore her fear was grim time and again. And again he has given her another job, another work, that is to take a teacup back to the table carefully. He was so big, his hand and his neck, especially his mouth, when he yawned. Thinking about him alone was like thinking about a giant. So the physical description of the father is given over here, and it is the view of Kezia, what she feels about her father, that is being given. She feels her father seems to her like a giant with a big hand. He was so big. His hand and neck was so big, and it says that she says that especially when he yawned at that time, especially he seems quite dreadful to her. So she says it has been given that whenever she think about her father, a giant-like figure appeared before her. On Sunday afternoons, grandmother sent her down to the drawing room to have a nice talk with father and mother, but the little girl always found mother reading and father stretched out on the sofa, his handkerchief on his face, his feet on one of the best cushions, sleeping soundly and snoring. She sat on a stool gravely, watched him until he woke and stretched and asked the time, then looked at her. Don't stare so, Kezia, you look like a little brown owl. So what happened then? Generally on Sunday, when it is a holiday, then her grandmother, Kezia's grandmother, what she used to ask her? She used to ask her to go down the stair in the drawing room where her father and mother was sitting. So she asked her to speak, to have a nice talk with her father and mother. So she used to slip down the stair again because she was not willing to sit with her mother and father because she was afraid with her father. But she was asked to go down the stair in drawing room, therefore she was forced to do so. So she go downstairs in the drawing room and she found there her mother reading. Her mother was busy in reading something, and as usual her father stretched out on sofa. Her father was sleeping on sofa with his handkerchief on his face, and his legs used to be stretched out, and it was lying on one of the best cushion, and he was seen sleeping on sofa soundly and snoring. What is snoring? Snoring is the sound produced. It is the noise which occur while sleeping. Okay. So when he used to wake up, once he had wake up, he used to ask first for the time, that what's it's the time, and then again he used to ask Kezia that don't stare me like this. So while they were sleeping and her mother was busy in reading book, she used to sit there on a stool and she had nothing to do. She used to watch her father lying there on the on the sofa, sleeping there on the sofa. Gravely, it means in a very serious manner. Because when he was up, she never had courage to look at him, perhaps, and therefore when he was sleeping, she was staring, continuously watching, continuously looking at her. So when he wake up, her eyes fall on her. His eyes fall on her, and therefore he found her staring at him. And then again, see the comment which he makes: "A father, a parents never compares a child to owl." But here he says that stop staring at me like a brown owl. One day when she was kept indoor with a cold, her grandmother told her that father's birthday was next week and suggested she should make a pin cushion for a gift out of a beautiful piece of yellow silk. Laboriously with a double cotton, the little girl stitched three sides. But what to fill it with? That was the question. The grandmother was out in the garden and she wandered into mother's bedroom to look for scraps. On the bed table she discovered a great many sheets of fine paper, gathered them up, tore them into tiny pieces and stuffed her case, then sewed up the fourth side. So what happened? One day she was in her home, then her grandmother informed her that her father's birthday was approaching, and therefore in order to gift him, she gave her an idea. She asked her that she should gift him a cushion. So for that, what she did, she gave her a beautiful piece of clothes which was made up of silk, and she asked her to make it a pin cushion. So she took it took a great labor for her to make that pin cushion. So she had already stitched it from the three sides. Only one side was left because she wanted to feel something inside it so that it will be fluffy. So she was looking for some of the scraps, some of the material which can be put inside that cushion. No one was there in the house. Her grandmother was out in the garden, and therefore she was looking for the scraps. She was looking for something which can be filled up in that cushion. So while she was looking for the scraps, she entered. She reached in her father's room, in her mother's bedroom, and there on the bed table she found the fine papers. Was a number of fine papers was lying there on that bed table. So what she did, she took that paper and she tore it into tiny pieces, into many small pieces. And what she did, so those tiny pieces of paper she stuffed in that pin cushion, and after that she stitched the fourth side which was left unstitched. That night there was hue and cry in the house. Now what is hue and cry? It is protest, anger protest. Protest in anger, or you may say that a shout all around, everyone was shouting in the house. Father's great speech for the port authority had been lost. Rooms were searched, servants questioned. Finally, mother came into Kejia's room. Kejia, I suppose you did not see some paper on the table in our room. Oh yes, she said, I tore them up for my surprise. What? Screamed mother, come straight down to the dining room this instant. So what happened that night? Her father was shouting. He was shouting out of anger. He was very much angry. He was looking for the speech which he has prepared for the port authority. He was not able to locate it. He was not able to find it. So each and every room of the house was already looked. He has already asked to all the servants, but it was not found yet. So finally Kezia's mother asked her, and then she said, yes, I have seen it, I have torn it. For my surprise, I have torn it and I have filled it in my cushion which I was preparing for father for his birthday surprise. Then her mother was quite angry. She grew angry and she screamed at her and she asked her to come to the dining room this time, at that very time, instant, that means at that very time without any delay. And she was dragged down to where father was pacing to and fro, hands behind his back. Well, he said sharply, mother explained. He stopped and stared at the child. Did you do that? No, 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 she whispered. Mother, go up to her room and fetch down the damn thing. See that child's put to bed this instant. So now what happened? She went to the dining room, and there she saw her father moving to and fro. He was anxious, he was quite angry, and he was moving to and fro, up and down in the dining room. And then he asked, the mother of that child narrated everything to her father, and then he asked that whether she has done or not. She whispered. She was not able to answer him properly, and after that he asked his mother to bring that cushion that time instantly, and he asked Kezia to go and sleep in her bed. Crying too much to explain, she lay in the shadowed room watching the evening light make a sad little pattern on the floor. Then father came into the room with a ruler in his hand. I am going to beat you for this, he said. Oh no, no, she screamed, hiding under the bedclothes. He pulled them aside. Sit up, he ordered, and hold out your hand. You must be taught once and for all not to touch what does not belong to you. But it was your birthday. Down came the ruler on her little pink palm. So now the girl was sent to her room to sleep. There, the room was dark. She was there. She was crying as she was scolded. She has tried to do something good, but again it has turned into worse. And then his father came into her room with a ruler in his hand, and then he said that I am going to punish you. She was hiding herself in the bed cover, in the bedclothes, but what he did, he pulled those clothes aside and then he asked her. Then he ordered her to stretch her hand and then he punished her. He beat her on her hand and he said that she must be punished and she must be taught that she should not touch the things which do not belong to her. So she was punished for that activities, for that action of touching her father's things, and now she was beaten by her father with a ruler on her palm. Hours later, when grandmother had wrapped her in a shawl and rocked her in the rocking chair, the child clung to her soft body. What did God make father for? She sobbed, here's a clean hanky, darling. Blow your nose. Go to sleep, pet. You will forget all about it in the morning. I tried to explain to father, but he was too upset to listen tonight. But the child never forgot. Next time she saw him, she quickly put both hands behind her back and a red color flew into her cheeks. So what happened? She was continuously weeping, she was sobbing. Her grandmother took her in her lap. She tried to console her, to soothe her, because she was continuously weeping and sobbing, and then she tried to soothe her, to appease her. She gave her clean hanky to blow her nose, and after that she asked her to go to sleep, and she said that you will forget everything when you will be up in the morning. She tried to say to her grandmother that I was trying to explain everything to father, but he did not care to listen what I was saying to her. And here again you can see that the statement which is being the harsh statement which is being made by this child, that what did God make fathers for? She don't feel the importance of father. She don't want to see father in her house. She wants an environment, a house which should not have father. Why? Because he has never cared for her, because he has never shown his love for her, he has never spoken to her in a soft voice, and this is why she was afraid of her father, and her fear, her hate for her father even grew more once when she was beaten by her father. So from next time, this act, this punishment always remained in her mind. She has not forgotten that punishment and it remained stuck in her mind. And whenever she came for the next time in front of her father, automatically her hands used to move to her back. And the color flew into her, red color flew into her cheek. So she used to recall that night when she was beaten up by a ruler on her palm. So her hand automatically moved to her back and her cheek turned red out of fear. The MacDonalds lived next door. They had 5 children. Looking through a gap in the fence, the little girl saw them playing tag in the evening. The father with the boy, Mao on his shoulders, 2 little girls hanging on his coat pockets, ran round and round the flower bed, shaking with laughter. Once she saw the boy turn the hose on him, and he tried to catch them laughing all the time. Then it was she decided there was different sort of fathers. Suddenly one day mother became ill and she and grandmother went to hospital. So one day what happened? She had a look into she looked into the house of MacDonalds. MacDonalds, they were living beside their house, that is the next door. So their house was just beside Kezia's house. So one day she looked through the fence, the space which was in between the fence, she saw through that, space that all the children and the father were playing game, and the game was tag game. What is tag? It's a children's game of catching one another. So she saw that father along with the five children were playing tag game in evening in their garden, and with one of her child Mao on his shoulder and the other two little girl was hanging on his coat pockets, and they were moving round and round in the flower beds, and they were all laughing all together. And once again she saw that the boy turned hose. What is hose? Hose is a flexible pipe which is used for watering plant. So once she saw that one of the boy, it means one of the child of MacDonald, turned that pipe, the pipe which is used for watering the plant, upon his father, and they all were running and trying to catch one another. They were playing with water, they were playing in the garden, they were running round and round, they were playing tag game. So this was the thing which was totally strange to her. She saw this and totally she was surprised to see this thing, because she had never seen her father playing or even talking to her in a soft manner. So the scene of her father, scene of her house, and that the scene of MacDonald's house was totally different. Here in Kezia's house, everyone was speaking to her in a restricted manner, in a stern manner. Her father particularly never talked to her with a soft voice, but here she saw the house which is next to her house. She saw that the MacDonald's family, the father of that family, was playing with other children. They were laughing, they were shouting, they were trying to catch each other. So it was a sort of different experience for Kezia. So that day she thought she come to know that even there are this sort of father on this earth. Before that, for her, the image of father was totally dreadful. She could not even imagine father in her thought. Suddenly one day mother became ill, and she and grandmother went to hospital. So one day what happened? Her mother became ill, and her grandmother and her mother went to hospital. So now let's see what happened. The little girl was left alone in house with Alice the cook. That was all right in the daytime, but while Alice was putting her to bed, she grew suddenly afraid. What will I do if I have a nightmare? She asked. I often have nightmare, and then Granny takes me into her bed. I cannot stay in dark. It's all gets whispering. You just go to sleep, child, said Alice, pulling off her socks, and do not scream and wake up your poor pa. So what happened one day? Her mother was ill, so her grandmother had to accompany her to the hospital. So now she was all alone with the cook in her house. So in during daytime she had no problem, but at night when her cook Alice was putting her in bed in order to make her asleep, at that time she says that what I will do in night, because during night I get nightmare. So now nightmare is dream, a bad dream. She says that during night I get a bad dream, and whenever I get bad dream, Granny, that is the grandmother, used to take me into her bed, but today I'm all alone, no one is there in the house, neither mom nor grandmother is there in the house. So what I will do in night if I will get bad dreams? She says that she used to have bad dreams. So that Alice the cook, she says her, just you go to sleep and don't shout, don't scream in night, because your father may wake up. But the same old nightmare came, the butcher with a knife and a rope, who came nearer and nearer, smiling that dreadful smile, while she could not move, could only stand still, crying out, Grandma, Grandma. She walked shivering to see father beside her bed, candle in his hand. So what happened? The fear which he had in his mind that she will definitely get a dream, a bad dream. So that same very dreadful dream came again. She saw again in the dream which used to come to her that a butcher was there with a knife and a rope, and the butcher was approaching toward her, and he was coming nearer and nearer, and so she screamed loudly for grandma, and she woke up. So when she woke up, she saw she was shivering. She was shivering. What is shivering? Shivering is that is shaking. So she was shivering, and she saw that her father was standing beside her bed with a candle in his hand. What's the matter? He said. Oh, a butcher, a knife, I want, Granny. He blew out the candle, bent down, and caught up the child in his arm, carrying her along the passage to the big bedroom. A newspaper was on the bed. He put away the paper, then carefully tucked up the child. He lay down beside her, half asleep still with butcher's smile all about her it seemed. She crept close to him, snuggled her head under his arm, held tightly to his shirt. So, father, when she was shouting, she was crying for grandmother because she had seen a bad dream. Then her father, she saw that her father was standing beside her bed. So he came and he asked her that what was the matter. So why she was crying. So she explained that there is a butcher with a knife and I am afraid I want granny. So what he did, he blew out the candle which was there in his hand, and he bent down, he caught the child in his arm. So he took her in his lap, and he took her to his big bedroom. And on the bed, a newspaper was lying there. He removed that newspaper and he let her sleep there with him in his bedroom. So here it is snuggled. What is snuggled? Moved into warm, comfortable position closer to another person. So now, when she was sleeping with her father, still there was in her mind, butcher's smile was still there in her mind, a rope and a knife, the butcher was still there in her mind. So what she did in order to overcome that fear, she grew closer to her father, she went closer to her father, snuggled, it means she hid herself, he hid her face in her father's arm and held her father tightly. This is for the first time we can see that her father has taken her in his lap and he has brought her closer to her, and for the first time she was seen so close to her father. Then the dark did not matter. She lay still. Here, rub your feet against my legs and get them warm. So here we can see that this is the affection of father toward her daughter, which he has never shown before. He has never made her daughter feel that even he feel for her, even he love her. So for the first time, he has hugged her, he has allowed her to sleep with him, and he has hugged her closer, and she has held her tightly so she can feel the touch of her father for the first time, the affectionate touch which she has never felt before that. And then he asked her to rub her leg in his leg so that it may get warm. Tried out, he slipped before the little girl. A funny feeling came over her. Poor father, not so big after all, and with no one to look after him. He was harder than grandmother, but it was nice hardness. And every day he had to work and was too tired to be Mr. MacDonald. She had torn up all his beautiful writing. She stirred suddenly and sighed. What's the matter? Asked her father. Another dream? Oh, said the little girl, my head's on your heart. I can hear it's going. What a big heart you have got, father. Father dear, here it is. R is missing, father dear. So for the first time she was close to her father, and that day she felt that his body was not even so big. It was not even as big as a giant as she used to feel earlier. So that day, when she was sleeping with her father slept because she was too tired, but she was still awake and she was feeling the body of her father. She could feel the body of her father, and then a strange feeling came to her mind. So, because she had never been so close to her father before, and therefore today she was imagining different sort of thing, and different sort of thing was coming to her mind. She was feeling the body of her father, and she found it not so big, which seems to be which seems to her when she used to watch her father, and she found that his body was harder than her grandmother's body, but that hardness was something which she found good. And then she realized that my father can't be MacDonald because he has to work very hard. He had a lot of work to do, and therefore he is so tired, and therefore he cannot be MacDonald. He cannot play with him. He cannot do the activities which MacDonald was seen doing with his children. And then she realized that what she has done, what mistakes she has done, and why she was being punished. So while she was thinking all these things, she stirred, it means she moved suddenly. So again you can see that with her slight movement, again his father was awake, and he asked her, was there another dream? She said, no, it's not like that. There is no dream. My head is on your heart, and I can feel your heartbeat, and your heart is so big. So the chapter ends on this note, and again this line have a metaphorical meaning. So one, if we will go to the literal meaning, if we will come to know the literal meaning is that she was referring to the heart, the real size of heart of her father, because he was a grown up man. His heart was beating fastly than her. And the another thing is that she wants to say that you really work very hard, and that's why perhaps you are not able to give time to me. So we can see that by end of this chapter there was a transition of emotion. The gap, a void which was there between father and daughter was filled. So the child, when she got a chance to understand, when she get closer to her father, she understand that what problem her father was facing, why he was not able to understand, why he was not able to speak to her softly, why he was not able to spend time with her. So these things happen even in life, but the thing is we need to give some time, then only we will be able to understand each other, and therefore we should take some time. We should not judge anyone on the basis of our feeling, but we should feel what others feel, and what is going on with that person. We should try to analyze the situation of the person whom we are judging before honing any prejudice in our mind, in our head, in our heart. This is all about this chapter. Thank you. Thank you for watching this video.